Welcome to Alberta Conservation Association's Harvest Your Own podcast, the resource for everything hunting, navigating through the field, the butcher shop, and the kitchen. Life is all about great food. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brad Fenson, an avid outdoor enthusiast who has worked as a freelance journalist, photographer, and public speaker for over 3 decades. I have hunted, fished, and foraged all my life and hope to share my passion for the outdoors. Along the way, I want to encourage everyone to harvest wild proteins and enjoy the satisfaction of providing the next meal for your family. Our goal is to educate, entertain, and inspire individuals to get outdoors and create a connection between food, health, and your future meals. Welcome to Harvest Your Own. Today we have a familiar guest on this episode. It's Vanessa Harrop, and I would describe her as a currently globally recognized hunter and a role model. Hunter, award-winning TV co-host, writer, photographer, and besides all that, she also has a full-time job outside of the hunting community. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you for having me.
It's always fun to talk to you. You know, it's you actually inspire me to get out and do more too. You live to hunt. Is that a good way to put it?
Pretty much. I mean, our tagline for our TV show is it's all about the journey. So it really is.
It is, and you make it more than just a hunt. It is truly a journey, whether you're off in Europe or Africa or 20 minutes down the road from your house. It's always an adventure.
It sure is.
I have a question, though. You haven't always been a hunter. We know that from the first episode we had you on here. You started later in life, but did you have any exposure to hunting when you were growing up?
Not at all. My family was, I'd almost call them anti-hunting. My mom had a little bit of exposure when she had her boyfriend, which then became her husband. They went hunting, but that was way after I was already an adult, so never got exposed at all. Lived in Victoria, BC, and went boating and horse riding and everything else, and just never had any exposure to rifles, hunting, shooting, none of those sports.
And now it more or less takes up all of your free time.
Now it is my life.
Do you ever look back and wonder what would have happened if you started at, age 12 or 14 when you can legally hunt?
Oh my goodness, I do, especially coming from BC. I feel like I missed out on a whole lot of opportunities growing up that, of course, now are just unattainable. So I totally wish I could have hunted when I was younger.
It must be fun to look back, though, and look at what you did with your free time, because I'm sure looking back and knowing what things were like, you were so busy that you couldn't fit more into your life.
For sure. For sure.
And now you have hunting, and do you still go horseback riding and enjoy all those things you did when you were pre-hunter?
I actually have gotten back into horseback riding. So it was one thing that I had really, really missed and took basically a 35-year hiatus from, but had always said I was going to get back into it. And so what better, though, to get back into horses? We've got our horses trained and ready. We've been hitting the mountains with them and getting them prepared. And hopefully this year we'll be able to draw a tag to go into the mountains with our boys and go on a hunt with them.
Right. So getting back into horseback riding and owning horses was really more about hunting than a journey back to your childhood.
I think it was a little bit of both, but for sure, definitely helpful when you're hunting. And, what better way to have an adventure?
No kidding. I've always dreamed about doing another horseback adventure. I've done a few over the years. Not most of the time it was leading a horse, not riding a horse, but it still helped a lot in terms of getting your gear and everything in and out.
Yeah, for sure. And at least the horses, you can pack a lot more.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Like I've had a couple trips in Colorado where we rode horses and mules, and it was wonderful. You could cover miles of country. You get off the saddle, your legs are fresh, and away you go. It was enlightening to me to see what it can do for you for a day in the field.
And it's even better when you are used to riding rather than getting on someone else's horse and you haven't been on a horse for 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
Your body gets a little bit more conditioned to it.
Yes, that is true. I must admit, even though it makes me a little red in the face, that my first sheep hunt I ever did on horseback, we rode for 2 solid days, and I got to discover what a saddle sore was.
Yes.
It was not fun, I'll tell you that.
That's for sure.
But it was good. I ended up killing my first ram on that trip, and the horses make it a great memory as well. They added a lot to it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, congratulations on your ram.
Yeah, that was many moons ago, but it's still a highlight.
Yeah.
I would have to, I gave you lots of different monikers in terms of winning awards and being co-host of a TV show and doing all kinds of things, but I'd have to classify you as one tough individual as well. Like you and I shared some dreams about goat hunts, and we both had a pretty long journey until we found success, but we never gave up. But yours included some harrowing experiences as well.
Yes, I seem to be a little bit accident prone, and the goat hunts definitely proved that. So yeah, one of my goat hunts, I ended up, I think we were probably very close to getting to camp, and hiked through treacherous terrain, and I think all of us slipped and fell I don't know how many times, because you're in northern BC and it's wet and everything's covered in moss, and I just happened to do one of those unlucky slip and falls and landed on my arm carrying a 60-pound pack and broke it in 3 places.
Yeah, it makes me wince just hearing it about it again. But
the worst part was trying to hike out. Back out to it was a long go, that's for sure.
And you had a similar experience with horses. After your hiatus from them, you got back into riding, and there was a bit of an incident there as well.
Yes, yeah. The horse took off and headed straight towards a barbed wire fence, and the problem was that before she took off, TJ and I were just chit-chatting, so I was right at the end of the reins, had, totally relaxed. So when she spun around and took off, I had no reins. My balance had gone completely. And so just before she hit the barbed wire fence, she did a hard left, and my whole body did a hard right off the back of her, and she was probably going about 3 kilometers an hour. So I ended up fracturing my pelvis in 4 places on the left side. And I did what's called a flaying your chest. So I shattered 3 of the ribs that attach to your sternum, and one of them punctured my lung. And then I fractured 5 of the ribs on my back and all the foramina that basically attach your ribs to your spine.
Yeah.
So,
ouch doesn't even begin to describe it.
It was the most pain I have ever been in my entire life.
Yeah, and I'm bringing this up not to show that accidents happen when you're in the outdoors. They can happen driving down the street or in the grocery store or anything, but
absolutely, I
think it's actually inspired you to go at things even harder.
Yeah, I'm kind of stubborn that way.
Yeah, I might have a few of those traits too. I've had, I think, 7 major surgeries now, and I still refuse to give up.
I know, right? I think, your passion is so strong, right? To get out there and to enjoy the outdoors and the adventure. That pull is just so strong. Nothing's going to stop you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, things happen to us in the outdoors. The good news is you knew how to deal with it. You were prepared. And you're back at it. So there are memories that you can share, learn from, and hopefully laugh about a little bit. Yep. Yeah, I have to laugh at them. Is there a memory that you recall from your first hunt? Like, is it one that stands out, or is it already faded into the background somewhere?
You know what? I think every hunt I can remember vividly. Being said, I mean, we're pretty lucky. We have like the best home videos of anybody, being that it's all on TV. Right. So we're really, really lucky that way. But, you bring back my very, very first hunt, which was my caribou. And you got to understand that was the first animal I'd ever taken. Like, I'd never shot a squirrel, nothing. So I remember my heart just beating out of my chest when we were stalking that caribou. And I was terrified that when I got behind the rifle, was I going to be able to pull the trigger? I'd spent all of my life, loving animals and everything else. So I was a little nervous that was going to happen. And what was amazing was when I did get behind the rifle, got into position, a strange calm came over me. And it was like I was meant to do this all my life. Everything, all the pieces of my life finally came together in that one moment.
That's a very interesting way to describe it, because I think a hunter is locked in all of us somewhere, and there's certain things that bring it out. I was introduced to it as a child, and my mom and dad, they thought I was off the deep end. I was so crazy about hunting, but it's led to an incredible lifestyle and career. But you weren't introduced as a child, so.
No.
As an adult, you got a chance to go out, learn to shoot basically overnight, and went on a hunt, and you shot a caribou on your first outing.
Yeah, no, I mean, TJ didn't exactly encourage me when we went out on that shooting date for the first time, and I thought, this is the best thing. And, he was like, oh, well, there's a lot of steps you have to go through before you become a hunter, and, you have to get your hunter education, and you have to go and do a course, and you have to do a firearms course. And he's listing off all of these things, trying to discourage me to not go. And of course, that very next weekend, I'm like, hey, guess what I did? I enrolled in hunter education. So I'm taking the course like next weekend. So there was really no stopping me once I got it into my head that I really wanted to do this.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that he helped generate his best hunting partner he's ever had.
Once he knew I was committed, and, he's the one that organized the caribou hunt in the Northwest Territories. So, he really did fuel the fire once he accepted it.
Yeah. It really speaks to the importance of having a mentor and or a partner that can go at things with the same enthusiasm and effort that you do.
Absolutely.
This podcast is produced for Harvest Your Own, a program dedicated to those who want to reconnect with food and health through their experiences outdoors. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a resource for individuals to learn more about hunting and the outdoors. There's information to get you started and ensure that your compass stays pointed in the right direction to be successful. Where's your next meal coming from?
The next thing we're going to talk about is horned animals. And if you want to hunt the mountains like your mountain goat hunt or go after bighorn sheep, it's a completely different game.
It is. I mean, horned game live in really unique areas, right? You've got sheep and goats that live in the mountains. You've got muskox that live in the tundra, and you've got antelope that live on the prairies. Yeah. I mean, antelope and muskox roamed when woolly mammoths were around and outlived them by surviving the Ice Age. Now, that's pretty cool.
It is.
Right?
There's no doubt about it. But to find yourself in sheep country and be able to, make it to the top and stuff, it's a mental game. I've always said that mountains are mental. You tell yourself you can't do it, you won't. If you tell yourself you can do it, you will.
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started hiking and hunting with TJ, he was all about sheep hunting. That's all he wanted to live and breathe was sheep hunting. Me, on the other hand, I had an extreme fear of heights. Like extreme fear of heights.
Yeah,
to the point that I remember us going on a sheep hunt. It was one of the times I said, I'm going to go buy a sheep tag, and I'm going to go hunt sheep. And we started heading up this mountain, and he's like, well, we just have to get across these 3 avalanche chutes. You'll be fine. And I looked at him and crumpled to the ground and started hugging a rock. And he said, fine, you sit here and breathe. I'm going to go across the avalanche chute. I'll look over on the other side, see if there's sheep, and I'll give you a signal if there is any. And I think at that point, I was hoping and praying that he wasn't going to see a sheep. But that kind of drove me, because that very summer, after that fall, I was out and I said, I want to hit the mountains hard and I want to go. And the first one I want to do is I want to conquer that mountain that stopped me and had me quivering against a rock.
Right.
And so that's what we did was we just hit the mountains hard. Every weekend we were hitting a different mountain, and it was getting that exposure to the mountains and the terrain and everything else, and getting that confidence and getting in better shape. Made it so that it was possible for me to be successful on my bighorn sheep the very next year.
Yeah. And there's an important lesson there. When you pick a hunting partner, or they pick you or decide to go, you got to look at it from their angle too, because I would consider TJ probably your absolute best hunting partner to teach you things, but he could also be your worst, because he will not give up his dream to do the things he wants, and he is built like a mountain goat. So just trying to keep up with him. I've been there, I feel that TJ compliments me, and as over the years, he says, Fenson isn't the quickest one in the crowd, but he always gets there. So to me, that's a compliment, and I don't have to be the first one up the mountain. I just need to know that I can get there. So
yeah, I've always said, as I'm trailing way behind him going up the mountain, slow and steady always wins the race. And I just count my way up the mountain and count my steps, and eventually I get there.
It's funny you say that, because I say the exact same thing in my mind. I look at my boots and I just say, slow and steady wins the race. And it's step after step after step. And it does work.
Yep.
Yeah.
It totally works.
Yeah. And that's part of that mental game, convincing yourself, telling yourself, giving yourself the encouragement, the enthusiasm, the energy to do it. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I think too, once you get in better shape as well, and your legs aren't jello, it does become more enjoyable.
Right. Yeah. The more you do it, the more fit you get, the more muscle memory you have. I remember the first mountain I climbed, I got the first 200 meters up the hill, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? My lungs are burning. My thighs were on fire. It's like, what's going on? And then, I always equate it to a good stock horse. You see them going, and when they first get going, they're breathing hard. They start to sweat, and all of a sudden they find a rhythm, and they're comfortable, and they just go. And that's what a person needs to do when they're climbing a hill too, especially if you're chasing somebody like Schwanke.
I know, right?
Yeah. Although I must admit that having someone like that with you is strong encouragement to get in shape, stay in shape, and to get there, at approximately the same time they do.
TJ has always been great, though, to hunt with, in that he will always stop and wait for you, and especially when you've taken an animal or anything, he doesn't run right up to the animal. He always waits. If you've taken an animal, he makes sure that you are the first one to that animal. Right. He's a very, very good person to mentor, to have as a mentor, but to learn the ropes of hiking and hunting, and just he makes sure that everybody that's along with him gets well looked after.
Yeah, and that's what a good hunting partner is. I know you do the same. I've hunted with both of you, and both you hunt as a team. So it's and you feel like you're part of the team, which is important psychologically. Yeah.
And that is the most important thing is you're only as fast as the slowest person with you, right?
Yeah, and you got to remember that. I've gone out with other people that disappear from the crowd, and who knows what they're doing, but they're not part of the team and often bump game ahead of you. So.
And that's not what it's about.
No, you're supposed to share the experience. That's why you pick a partner.
Exactly. Yeah.
This has led into, we talked about your hunting, your goat hunt, and you shot a bighorn. You worked hard to get there, get over your fears. Tell me the W5 about the Super 10 of North American Big Game. What is the Super 10?
Okay, the Super 10 of North American Big Game is an award that was created by the Grand Slam Club Ovis. What they did was they took the North American 29 and broke it into 10 categories. So in order to qualify, you must have taken at least one animal from each of the 10 categories. The 10 categories, there's a bear, cat, deer, elk, caribou, moose, bison/muskox, goat, antelope, and sheep.
And is there an award if you achieve all those?
So once you achieve all of those, then so you have to get one from each of the categories. You enter all of those into the Grand Slam Club Ovis, and then you get a lovely plaque that says that you've been awarded the Super 10 of North American Big Game.
Yes.
The cool thing is there's only 14 women who have been awarded the Super 10 of North American Big Game.
Yes, and we should mention that you do have that plaque.
I do.
When did you get it?
Last January in Las Vegas at the Grand Slam Club Ovis convention.
Yeah, that's pretty special. You know, it's an accomplishment. You did a lot of it on your own, like basically at home without outfitters.
Actually, we were just sort of going through that, and the interesting thing is that I did 5 of my 10 hunts that I entered were DIY hunts.
Yeah, I think that's outstanding. I mean, that's got to be in a separate award category altogether. Do you remember each hunt, Vanessa?
Absolutely, vividly.
This is a strange question, but it is a Harvest Your Own podcast. What were your top or your favorites to eat out of all those? Because we talk about shooting trophies and getting awards, but I know that your house is the same as mine. You know, meat is a trophy and it's a bonus, or however you want to look at it, but it always gets utilized.
Yeah, I mean, I love all big game. I mean, I must say we're very fortunate right now. We have a freezer full of elk, bison, muskox, antelope, and whitetail deer. So, in fact, tonight we're even having elk steaks for dinner, Caesar salad, and naan bread. So
nice. That's a nice combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, having the Super 10 is great. Your most recent one to take you to the 10 was a muskox hunt. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and you ended up harvesting a muskox. Yeah, I believe. Tell us a little bit about the story. You went up there hoping to harvest it with a bow?
Yeah, so we actually drove up to the Northwest Territories and then flew out of Yellowknife into Almer Lake. And I was hunting with Kevin McNeil of Canadian Wildlife Adventures. And so I'd taken a bow up and we took a rifle up just in case. Plus I had a tag for Wolf and Wolverine as well. So the first day out, it was supposed to be really bad weather coming in. And so we're just traveling on the lake in like these 16-foot aluminum boats. So we kind of wanted to get out quickly in case the seas got too rough. And it can get pretty dangerous on those big lakes. So what you do is you just go up the lake slowly and watch glass from the boat to the shores. And every now and then we'd land and get out and go to a high point and glass. And so we'd done that a couple of times, and then we rounded, came through this little narrows and came around into this bay. And sure enough, there was a whole pile of muskox right on the top. And so we quickly got the boat beached and got our stuff organized. And at that point, they'd actually gone over the ridge. So it was great timing because then we could get a stalk in nice and quietly, and they didn't know we were there. And so came in and set up the spotting scope, started having a look, and we're glassing. There's 2 really big bulls that we were looking at. So Kevin and TJ and I are all kind of talking about amongst ourselves as to which one was the bigger of the 2. And I'm just looking through the scope, and I said, hold on. There's a new bull here I haven't seen before, and he's dwarfing the other 2. And so quickly the other 2 look through the scope, and we need to make a plan. We need to make a plan quick. So they'd already by this point gone over to the next ridge, and so we had to go around. As we're starting to go around to get to them, we realized we're right out in the open, and they can see us. So we each took turns going through and sort of one person would get across and then flag the other person. Okay, it's good to go. Quickly go through. So we got into position. And at that point, kind of got our stuff organized. I got my bow out and everything, and sort of crawled up onto this little hill. Well, there the muskox were, and they were 90 yards from us.
Yeah.
All staring at us. Busted. And so they'd actually circled up, which is what they do when they're feeling endangered. They circle up and put all the young ones in the middle and create a protective circle, which was really, really cool to see. The giant muskox that I had already spotted was way behind them, just bedded by a rock, and had no care in the world. And so we're trying to figure out a way to get in. The wind's really picked up at this point, and it's blowing at about 60 kilometers an hour with a crosswind. And Kevin's like, so can you make the shot? It's like 90 yards. And I'm like, at this wind with a crosswind, it's going to have to be 20 yards for me to get it.
No kidding.
And so we tried everything. We tried for 2 hours to get in on him with a bow. I'd actually read an article that sometimes you can walk straight up to them and then shoot them. They don't know what to do. So we even tried that, and they started to get spooky and fidgety. And I knew, okay, we pushed it long enough, and I had to make the hard decision to put my bow down and pick up the rifle. And at 110 yards, one shot, and he was down. And it was a very emotional moment because there was just so much ups and downs that went along with that, trying to get in and then making the decision to put the bow down when I really, really wanted to take it with a bow. And then the culmination of the fact that I had actually just started my hunting career with that Central Barren Ground caribou I talked about earlier, completed my Super 10, less than 100 kilometers from where I took my first animal.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Isn't it? Like I basically came full circle.
This podcast was made possible by Alberta Conservation Association and the Harvest Your Own community. If you're interested in harvesting your own food, there's a comprehensive collection of information to gain insight and knowledge. Head to the field, harvest your own protein, prepare it, and taste the results. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a library of information from getting started and geared up to processing, butchering, and cooking wild game to make the connection between health and food.
Yeah, you came full circle, and what you didn't know that day is it's likely a good thing. Well, it's a good thing you didn't shoot it with a bow because you were actually in line for the Bob Speegle Super Slam Summit Award for your muskox.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the thing with that is I didn't even know the award existed until I was awarded it.
Right. Which is a great accomplishment in itself. You're not hunting to win awards. You're hunting for yourself. This is all a bonus.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, even with the Super 10, I didn't even know that existed until just before I went on my muskox hunt. So it wasn't something that I had aspired to accomplish. It just sort of seemed to happen. And I mean, what a great way for animals, exceptional animals to be recognized.
Oh, absolutely. People don't recognize record books as a history lesson for wildlife management. Big animals, healthy animals, good populations mean that we have maintained good habitat. We've got genetics, we've got diversity within the population, and that speaks volumes to how we manage our wildlife and value them in the different parts of the world that we hunt.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. So what is the Bob Speegle Super Slam Summit Award?
So the Bob Speegle, it's actually got quite a long title.
It does.
The Bob Speegle Super Slam Summit Award for North American Big Game. So again, it's awarded by the Grand Slam Club Ovis. There's two categories. There's a rifle and an archery category. And the award was first named in honor of Dr. Robert Speegle, who was the first hunter to register 2 Super Slams, which is a North American 29,
right.
One with a rifle, and he did one with a bow. And he actually didn't do his one with a bow until he was, I believe he didn't start bow hunting until he was in his 60s.
Wow, that's amazing.
So very impressive. So the award recognizes the top overall North American trophy submitted as voted on by a GSCO committee. So it's not like it's the biggest one. It's not. It's actually the most impressive that is decided by a committee.
Right. And what did your muskox score?
So Boone and Crockett, it was 128 6/8, which at the time that I registered it ranked number 4 overall. And SCI, it was 89 7/8, ranking number 2 in the rifle category.
Yeah, impressive.
I have to say. Just this week, there was announced a new world record, muskox, with an impressive 131 and 4/8 score.
It is an impressive score, but when you consider yours was over 128, they're awful close.
Right?
Yeah. Very interesting and quite an accomplishment. I saw the news releases coming out. It was on the Outdoor Wire. Wild TV put out a thing. Lots of people were thrilled for your success and basically wanting to share some of that excitement with you and for you and with the public, the people that read outdoor magazines, watch hunting shows, stuff like that, because it is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it truly is mind-blowing, really.
What's next?
Well, we head to the eastern Cape of South Africa in just a couple of weeks for a plains game hunt. So TJ and I have a small addiction to South Africa and Africa. So we kind of treat our trips to Africa somewhat like some people treat all-inclusives to Mexico, except you get to hunt.
Isn't that wonderful?
Right?
Right.
And they have amazing food. They
do. I've been there a few times, and I wasn't sure I wanted to go the first time. I was excited, but I'm way more excited now when I go back. Like I always say, once is never enough. You're going to go to Africa, you're either going to fall in love with it or not, I guess is the best way to put it. But the majority of people that are true hunters just fall in love with it.
Yeah, I mean, they say that when you go to Africa, you lose a piece of your heart or a piece of your soul. And in order to get it back, you have to go back. Oh. And so whenever I land back in South Africa, I feel like I'm home.
Nice.
And unfortunately, I never find that other missing piece of my soul, which is probably a good thing.
Well,
so it just keeps me going back.
Yeah. Both you and TJ are avid hunters and travelers. You basically travel the world and live an adventure. So it's
Yeah. One trip I am really looking forward to, ever since I was a wee child, Mongolia was on my bucket list of places to go. I had always wanted to ride one of the Mongolian steppe horses. And so this year, we're headed to Mongolia in August for an ibex hunt. It'll be the 6th continent that TJ and I have hunted together. And it should be an absolutely amazing adventure. So we'll do an ibex hunt, and then we're going to tour on horseback and stay in yurts and basically ride on the trail of Genghis Khan.
Wow, that is impressive. Very cool. Yeah. I always enjoy seeing your adventures on TV. I watch the show, The Outdoor Quest, been around for 25 years.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, the oldest running outdoor television show in Canada. That deserves an award on its own.
Yeah, we're either really stubborn or...
I'd agree. You're both very stubborn, but you're also addicted to what you do and you love it.
We do.
Yeah.
We're very, very passionate about what we do.
Yeah. And I think it encourages all hunters. I'm not trying to make a statement to get more women involved or anything. I think it relates to any hunter. As you said, it's part of your soul, part of your being. And, whether you hunt deer 20 minutes from home or travel 4 hours to the prairie to hunt antelope or do different things even within our home province, we're truly blessed with opportunity. And it's a great resource to get out there and take advantage of.
It sure is.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing your story. I do have one last question before we go.
Okay.
Out of all your adventures and travels and harvests and game, what is your favorite wild game and recipe?
Oh my goodness, that's a really hard one. So I guess one of our favorite meals, especially at home, is what we're having for dinner tonight. One of TJ's famous 6-minute steaks.
Yep.
Paired with a Caesar salad, with romaine grown from our own garden, garlic naan bread, and a nice Côte de Rhone.
Nice. Yeah. Steak and salad is one of our favorites at home too. So you can't go wrong. Elk is hard to beat. You've had the opportunity to try some different things. Muskox populations were once endangered because they were commercially harvested and shipped back to England and sold as polar beef. So they're a treat too, and I know you have some of that in your freezer as well.
Yes, and it's going to be a sad day when I run out.
I think you know where to get more. Thanks for joining us today and sharing your message. You're a true inspiration.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
We hope to inspire people to reconnect with nature and appreciate where your food comes from by harvesting your own. For more information on getting started or to learn specifics about the Field to Fork experience, visit harvestyourown.ca and follow on Facebook and Instagram. Check back often for new material, recipes, and videos that are posted regularly. Please subscribe to Harvest Your Own podcast and take the time to rate and review the show to help us build a dedicated core of passionate hunters as our regular audience. Until next time, embrace the outdoors and all it has to offer. Thanks for joining us.